So I've just come back from firing my brown bess here live, and I thought I'd make a little video showcasing just how filthy, how disgusting, how terrible these things can get even after only a couple of rounds have been fired. You know, the rule states, and it is absolutely true, that even after firing a black powder firearm, even just once, you do have to clean it out fully. So, you know, if you're going to fire it once, you may as well fire it a great deal many times. Not entirely sure how many rounds we spent with this thing. I packed around 25 rounds of ammunition. I think we used a little over half. I think there was like 5 or 10 left. So, you know, a good couple of times, but not all too much. Just a little teaser as to what you might expect in the actual firearm, just how disgusting you could expect the actual lock to be. That's my hand. These are both hands after firing the piece a little bit. A few other pieces actually as well, but yes, this is what happens to your hand after firing the best a couple of times and dealing with all the powder and wiping away at the lock and everything. So let's see what the actual piece looks like. First things first. Oh, sorry, I'm at an odd camera angle here. It'll be a bit strange, but you can see the actual lock is rather grimy there, which honestly, a fair amount of this grime is just from my not having been able to clean it in quite some time, like as in properly polish it. You know, I've been doing a lot of field cleaning, but not really like disassembling the whole lock and polishing and everything. I really need to get to all that, but so you know, that can explain a fair amount of the grime. But once we actually get, oh, there we are, over here a little bit, you can see just how, yeah, terrible that is after only firing it, again, a couple of times. I can just run my finger through there. Can see, maybe with a clean finger. I have no clean fingers. There, you know, alright, here, on the knuckle there, it's more or less clean. I'll rub it around in there a little bit, and yeah, you can just see how it's slogging off. There's quite a fair bit of powder there on the side there as well. You can just sort of, oh, yeah, how it just sort of slogs right off. Sorry, again, difficult camera angles, but yeah. Not exactly very fun stuff. And this is, of course, on the outside of the lock. I mean, you can barely see the touch hole there. Oh, you can just see it out there. Make it out there. The what's it called? The flash guard there, which is quite a nuisance, but BAR regulations. No real reason for them to exist, I don't think. But yeah, that's quite bad as well. What else do we have? What other fun bits can I show you? Of course, the GR. You know, you can barely see it there from all the grime that's accumulated there, and then the barrel itself as well, all along here, is just absolutely filthy. You know, most of it will come off with the thumb, but it does require a much deeper, a much more thorough clean. So let's take off the lock here, and we can take a look at what the inside mechanism actually looks like. So I'll just flip it around. We have the 2 screws there. Let's see if we can't speed this whole process along using some TV magic. The screw is quite bad, but in fairness, it's been bad. Actually, I've been neglecting the poor bess for quite some time. I really do need to spend a lot more attention to it before the next reenacting season. I plan on disassembling the entire thing and polishing, you know, top to bottom, head to toe, whatever expression you might use, to get it ready for the upcoming season. So, you know, no, it's not been cared for properly, I will admit that. So, things like the screws being rusted, you know, that isn't just from firing once, you know, the brass here, you know, all looking very, very old. That isn't coming from just one day of firing. Oh, indeed, actually, the trigger guard here is particularly really bad. You know, this does not come from just a single event firing. This is, what, like 2 or 3 years of use, I think, since I've actually cleaned all the brass work on here. So, you know, this takes time, but even still, I mean, you know, after a couple of years, this is what it ends up looking like. I earlier polished a little bit, you know, of course, it's not to the standard that I want to get it. I'm going to spend another hour or two, I'm sure, polishing this little bit here, but, you know, this is, at least it looks a little bit newer there, because I was spending a bit more attention on that piece in particular. There'll be a video in the future, I'm sure, about fully disassembling the entire musket, you know, every piece by piece, and showcasing how to do more long-term cleaning and tending. But in the meantime, here we are. After just a couple of shots being fired, you can see, in particular, just around here, again, this is where the touch hole would, you know, meet, well, this is where the actual touch hole in the barrel is, and that's where the flame would shoot through. It's really, really bad in that area there. Where else do we have? Yeah, no, mainly just around where the actual powder is and everything, and then all the rest, you know, just in there. Yeah, just a lot of powder just sort of flaking down, sneaking its way down every time it's fired, getting in between all the nooks and the crevices, in order to really properly clean the thing, which, you know, you never really do at a reenactment. You know, indeed, in the field, in the battlefield, The men would very rarely, if ever at all, disassemble a lock because, of course, it's very difficult to put it back together, and should something happen, there's a lot of little pieces, little bits and screws and everything. It's a very complicated process. The men wouldn't normally do anything like that, but in order to get it properly and fully cleaned, you would need to disassemble it. You can also see, actually, the screw just underneath there. Oof. Oh, God, that powder's still really wet. Yeah, clumping on. You can see just how terrible that stuff is. Yeah, oh, God, yeah, I'm going to have to scrub my hands after this as well, as you may imagine. But yeah, so the lock there, and then of course, setting that aside, we can zoom in a little bit more. You can see the barrel with a bit more detail there, especially around the touch hole and the vent. Yeah, just slogging right off, which I understand it doesn't look that bad because, of course, the hands are already filthy, so it's just adding filth to the fingers that are already filthy, but when you feel it just slogging off, it's quite bad. And I mean, even the wood back here has been sort of like stained with the powder, with the residue. Just after every blast, it's going to find its way, sneak its way into all these little crevices, which I'll take the barrel out and do a proper, full cleaning to the entire thing. But that'll be for another day, I think, actually taking out the barrel. I'm not going to do anything like that for now. In the meantime, of course, it is time to actually clean the inside of the barrel. I have here to plug the touch hole, which, normally to plug the touch hole, you can use the musket tool, the little bit there, wrap a little bit of cloth and jam that through there to keep it in place. You can use the whisk and pick to shove, poke through there to plug the touch hole. I have a video actually on the whisk and pick, the entire thing, and how it might be used to help, keep water. Once you pour water down the barrel, of course, it'll prevent it from coming out of the touch hole there. This is not a, we're not in the field, we're not at a reenactment, so I'm going to use a modern day luxury. I've been told that pipe cleaners are actually really quite good at preventing these things from leaking, so let's give that a shot. This is the first time I've ever tried a pipe cleaner. Alright, so I found my assistant to actually hold the camera for me. Thank you very much. Well, we'll see if the pipe cleaner down there actually prevents water from leaking out. But just pour a little bit of warm water down the barrel is what we're doing here. It's really just so you can see the filth and the gunk that collects inside, because of course every time you fire the gun, you get fouling, black powder fouling leaking through the entire thing, and it's not exactly very fun. Oh, are we leaking water on the bottom? We are leaking a little bit of water on the bottom, but that's okay. If you wouldn't mind jacking this up a little bit closer, I want to try and get it, just point at the tip of the barrel there, we can see what comes out of it. And isn't that delightful? Let's do that one more time. Indeed, we'll have to do it a couple more times, but I won't bore you with the process every single time. Black powder is highly corrosive, and it gets everywhere. Oh, a little bit much there. That's why I normally remove the barrel when I'm doing this, so I don't get the wood wet. But yeah, you can just see how terrible that is. I'm going to have to do this a couple of times, basically just running water in and out until it is coming out clean. And then after that, you can use things inside the barrel to prevent it from rusting, modern oils and, gun cleaning things. Nothing that they would have the luxury of back in the day. Yeah, you see, it's starting to be a little bit clearer there. I'll run it through a few more times, but that's what the basic process is looking like, and you can see, thank you for still holding the camera for me, you can see just how terrible these things are. I mean, look at that. This is not who I am. I'm not used to this sort of thing, as you may imagine, but, well, I'm going to continue suffering with this for quite some time, and in the meantime, of course I am and I shall remain, my dear viewer, your most humble and obedient of servants. So there was something that I actually forgot to mention earlier. You did notice, of course, as we were running water through the barrel of, if we could see it there, there it is! As we were running water through the barrel of the gun, of course, eventually the water did start to come out more or less clean, and I ran, through like 4 or 5 more times after that just to really make sure. Of course, the water was coming out perfectly crisp and clean, so naturally you may assume that the barrel has been cleaned. Huzzah! Just apply a little bit of oil, of course dry the thing out, apply a little bit of oil to prevent the thing from rusting, and we are finished, most assuredly. And no, indeed, we are not. Indeed, the barrel is still filthy on the inside, which I remembered, something I had to show you, after I ran a patch through it. And this is what the patch looks like after you run it through the so-called clean barrel. I'll run another one through and see what the next one looks like. Hey, I'm sure now, after all of that, surely the barrel is now finally clean. Let's find out. Alright, so it's rather awkward having, only one hand for the actual thing, but we're gonna go on this little adventure together. We're gonna see how it goes. This is what the patch really more of a piece of cloth. Actually, I'm using it as an impromptu patch. This is what it looks like right now. Let's run it down the barrel. Sorry, I'm going to have to... actually, no, that should work. Yes, can we? Oh, yes, I actually can do it with one hand. Run it down the barrel. All the way to the base. Up. Alright, I'm afraid I'm going to have to... let's see if we can do some movie magic here. What sort of a camera angle is this, huh? Huh? Oh, now we are really amateur hour, aren't we? Run that down a little bit. Pull that out of the barrel, and we'll get a little stuck there. And that is what we are left with. I'm gonna be here for a while, folks. Folks, did I really just say that? My God. My dear viewer, I'm gonna be here for quite some time, I think. Well, I finally finished cleaning the gun, but of course there's always one more thing that I have to notice before I can wrap up the video. Of course, that being that gunpowder, you know, I've been washing my hands for quite some time, so you can see it's not quite that bad, but see, I'll get a little bit of soap, indeed a fair amount of it. Nice hot water, indeed very hot water. And, the thing about gunpowder is, again, I've been doing this for quite some time now. And the water's almost scalding hot. There we are. It, you can see there, it stains. I'll wipe away the towel a bit, for which my relatives will probably not be very happy, and still, yes, it stays. Obviously, you know, there's quite a fair bit. It's starting to come off, you know, a couple more times, a little bit, a few more minutes here of washing hands, or at the very least a shower, and my hands will be completely clean, but of course, soldiers back in the day do not have access so readily to hot, running water, soap, and, well, shower heads and the like. So if you ever happen to see a portrayal, any portrayal of a soldier who has been out in the field for any amount of time, and their hands are not just completely, you know, dyed black with the soot and the, you know, the powder and all the residue and everything, then odds are it's not a very authentic portrayal of a soldier's hands. Not, of course, that is the most important thing, to get a soldier's hands correct, but, you know, it's a fun little thing to take note of.